Have you noticed how, as I mentioned to you in an earlier video, that these difficult days can make you think seriously and learn about life itself and find how much more useful your faith is than perhaps you even knew that it was before? That's absolutely true these days as we consider in the days of social distancing the importance of being good stewards of each other, of considering our interactions with each other and considering the impact those would have. That's why we've decided not to meet regularly here on campus. It's because we are a steward not only of the Word God has given us, but also of you. And we want to be good stewards of you, and we want to encourage life in you. So stay online, be involved with us on Sundays and in life groups, and encourage others to do the same thing as we seek to be the best stewards we can possibly be as we walk with God. And as we walk with Him, another way that we see that is in the simple things like washing our hands. Washing our hands and making them clean is something that not a lot of us have thought that much about, but it's all the way through Scripture. In the Old Testament, when people come to the tabernacle or to the temple, they engage in washing. In the Old Testament times, there are mitzvah baths found by archaeologists, places of washing before they even went into walls to be around the temple places where they worshiped the Lord. Places where they washed themselves became a part of their everyday life. Jesus and the disciples are involved in an experience where Jesus washes the disciples' feet, which you remember, and Jesus elevates the idea of being clean before the Passover. And Paul talks about in the New Testament as people gather together, not just for the Lord's Supper, but to be together as a part of God's common people. He talks about how we are to examine ourselves, examine that anything would affect us. A lot of us haven't worried that much about what has been a part of our hands prior to this time. We haven't worried that much what's been a part of our lives, but if a little small virus can affect our very life by getting from the place our hands go into our bodies and into our hearts and taking our lives, now we can understand perhaps why God is so interested in for us having clean lives. And in when we worship Him, when we are in relationship with each other, that we are to be careful about where we've been and what we've done. Mother Teresa, Catholic nun of a number of years ago who ministered in a very deep and decadent place in terms of its own suffering and pain and disease and death in India for years and years, talked about the fact that every single day she would, before she went to bed, she would ask herself as she looked at her hands, where have these hands been? What have they been about? Who have they been with? And how have I handled that? As she washed them, as she cleansed them, she would think about the importance of being good stewards of that, and just considered as she looked at her hands how God had given her this moment to be useful to Him and how she needed to be careful of that. So, as God is encouraging you to wash your hands in relationship with everyone else, remember that it has a whole lot more to do with life itself than just a coronavirus. The virus is an illustration of what the psalmist tells us in chapter 51 when he says, "Purge me with hyssop, and I shall be clean. Wash me, and I will be whiter than snow. Create in me a clean heart, O God, and renew a right spirit within me. And restore to me the joy of your salvation, and uphold me with a willing spirit." That's what God gives us an opportunity to become in our relationship with Him.